My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes. An
is
adult human female, it's a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and that in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't...
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Got it. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt, right? So are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. Do you think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Yeah. That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny. So, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that encourages...
Forget complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think...
This is such a dumb question. The burden of proof is on Charlie. Okay, if he's making the claim essentially that because women have more rights, because women are more integrated into the economy than they were 50, 60 years ago, that increases suicidality. There's no other factors to consider. That's it. He has to prove that.
That even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up.
The fertility rates and marriage rates have nothing to do with women having more rights. I mean, what is he suggesting? Like, is his alternative to roll back the clock and make it so that women can't take out a credit card in their own name? They can't buy their own property. They can't run their own businesses. Like, what that's what he's saying. He's like, look at what feminism has done. It's given women more, greater parity with men, although not completely equal. And that leads to unhappiness as opposed to there being other factors. And yeah, this student he's talking to made the point that men's dissatisfaction and happiness or unhappiness has also increased. Is it because of women having more rights? Again, he would have to show that that's the case. He's just speculating.
And we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control. And all of a sudden, women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? is it working, and maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more.
Yeah, but Charlie's never going to accept the reality that capitalism plays into our emotional and mental well-being, right? Capitalism is inherently destabilizing, okay? And he can't recognize that. It has to be, women having more rights, gay people and LGBTQ people being more accepted by society. Somehow that plays into people being less happy or something. Like it doesn't make any sense.
More compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women in the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
And objectively, we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligation.
How do you know that? There's not a single. I see old people at those rallies sometimes. Like, I see super old people who probably have kids, who probably have grandkids. Like, they also care about justice. Like, married people with children also care about justice. And if the statue is of, a terrible human being, why the fuck should we keep it up? It's so stupid. He's still talking about statues like a million years later.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side...
Dude, you can be happy in your own life, right? Like your own individual life. You have your family, you have your good job, whatever it is, and still be horrified by the injustices that are happening in this world, right? But humans are complex beings. We can have both of those in our minds at the same time, right? What is Charlie saying? Like, look, is protesting bad? What? Does this idiot not care about free speech?
No, you would agree.
Only if he likes it. This idiot, justifies the January 6th riots. Never says all those people were, fucking single people, no kids, never gonna get married. No, dude. A lot of those people were probably married with kids, and yet they still rioted. Crazy. For something that they thought was just, even though, they're all demented, but whatever.
Objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also, self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and
that's the thing with all this is these people are happier than those other people. Happiness is so subjective. It's such a squishy thing that's not super easy to measure. But Charlie wants us to think that you can just fucking slap a number on it, say that these people are happier. I mean, you can have obvious distinctions between people who are like, upper middle class versus, fucking super poor, drug addicted, a homeless person. Yeah, of course they're going to be less happy, but like he's making it seem more straightforward than it is.
Standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable, but so would a Palestinian.
Dude, she is smoking him. She's like calling him out for all his inconsistencies. Yeah, Charlie does not, consider sociology like a serious study, but then he wants to talk about happiness metrics. Who does those studies? Sociologists. And a lot of them probably have like a million caveats too to their studies.
Child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like, but hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because
how? Again, where are the receipts on that? Who are these sociologists, researchers making comparisons, with people who are, fucking, living it up in San Francisco or wherever with sub-Saharan Africans? What? This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats and they have good jobs. And the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just like, connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that?
I mean, it's a good thing if people who want to get married and want to have kids have an easier time doing those things and removing unnecessary burdens. Yeah, totally fine with that. But how do you encourage, without appealing to, oh, we gotta change the culture, man. We gotta change the culture. Because, like, look, the culture is just not on your side. It's not, okay? And I don't know this for a fact, okay? I'm speculating, but at least I'm being honest about it. I would say it has more to do with economic uncertainty, economic instability, the lack of, access to childcare, access to healthcare, access to good education for your potential children, et cetera, et cetera. If all of those things were taken care of by the government, which has been done in other countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, the classics, then more people would probably have children. And now it's unclear as to how many more people, but if you want to, support families like you claim, then we just make it easier by providing all of these social services, which have been proven to work. Like, instead of pretending that like the market is somehow going to magically make it so that more people can have access to childcare, we could do what actually works.
That a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Like, I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Absolutely.
We actually have
agree
agreement.
on many things.
We should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into
Well,
the
okay,
UK either.
hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on.
Dude, I'm honestly surprised he posted this. Like, he is getting wrecked, dude. And he titled this Charlie Leaves Cambridge Feminist Resorting to Insults. We're 8 minutes in. Granted, there's a few minutes left. She hasn't insulted him once. She's made some few jokes at his expense, but like no name calling, none of that. God.
Can you show me show me, what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women right?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president.
Doesn't matter. Barack Obama was president. Racism didn't end, Charlie, you fucking idiot.
Female Speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually.
He has to, like... They must be Islamic then. They must be Muslims. Even if they have female leaders. Oh, God. He's trying, man. He's trying real hard.
It's not. So, again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note. But you must be morally clear, because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again...
They're not the only ones who do that, though.
This is... very important, which is I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 30.
But what's such bullshit about that is, like, we tell men the same thing. So wouldn't that also make us unhappy? Men also want to have families. Men also want to get married. For every woman who wants to get married and have a family, there has to be a man involved, right? Unless you're talking about gay couples who adopt or what, whatever. But he doesn't want that, obviously. This is silly. I mean, why is this just applied to women? Newsflash to Charlie. We're not hunter-gatherers anymore. Men don't do manly jobs to the same extent as in the past. So women can, fucking do it. They can be engineers. They can be day traders. They can do all the same shit that men do that requires sitting in front of a computer, right? Or being a CEO or whatever, right?
38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. We should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay. I think I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave. And in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness,
just use satisfaction surveys. You just told me they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me they're bullshit.
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? We can use that as data?
I don't think that
yes or no?
is the only sole data set, but it is a data set that
you told me they're so flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think
maybe we should have it universally, regardless of where you work. Not everyone can work at a billionaire-funded right-wing propaganda organization.
Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future. It's also bad because
Dude, and look, I think there's probably other factors contributing to the fact that people aren't having kids besides economic reasons. I don't think we talk enough about just all... dude, Alex Jones was saying this years ago. It's the chemicals in the water. All the plastics and forever chemicals that's in everything, the water, the soil, the food, all that shit is killing us. And who is responsible for that? Corporations, man. 3M, DuPont, Dow Chemical. And they knew this stuff was killing us 50 years ago. It's the same thing with the oil companies. They knew that the climate change was a thing in the 70s. but they kept it a secret because they could keep pumping, those profits, right? That's the problem, Charlie. It's capitalism. It's always capitalism.
Present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we get...
Do you want to start bringing this to a close, please?
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is that in which case we get to...
Also, and I wanted to say this earlier, we assume that the man has to be, the provider, has to make the most amount of money if both, spouses or partners are working. It doesn't have to be the case. The woman could be the breadwinner. The man could be the stay-at-home dad. The trophy husband. Let's promote that.
A really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to the biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why...
I mean, it's also just probably a combination, to state the obvious.
We should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted,
I've already answered
extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including a private sphere?
I believe...
Okay, yeah. What did she insult him? Did I miss that? Did I just, black out or something? Look, I am honestly surprised Charlie posted this. She cooked him like a Thanksgiving turkey. Okay? It's kind of embarrassing. I would be embarrassed to post this if I was Charlie. She's clearly a lot smarter than me. Okay? But anyway, guys, that's it for me. I love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.